loving and celebrating, remembering Mike's legacy. We are not here really just in grief, but also in gratitude for having the privilege of knowing Mike. It's a little emotional for me, but I'll get through it. Understand? You know, Mike had a huge impact on everybody's life. Mine, almost everybody who got to know him. Mike lived his life to the fullest. His untimely passing reminds all of us how fragile and unpredictable life can be. We measure life in years, but you know, there are people who lived 100 years who may not have even lived one single day. Mike lived every day to the fullest. I learned from Mike that the quality of life is much more important than the quantity. Some people go through their lives based on other people's expectations, routines, and what societal family expects of them. If you tried to put Mike in a box, he wouldn't fit. He would literally stand up and say, Sharon, this is not the life I want to lead. I don't want to follow everyone else's footsteps. I kind of want to do things the way I want to do. And I think that's why I have the utmost respect for Mike. He truly lived outside the box. He made choices that reflected who he truly was. He followed his heart, which brought him contentment, happiness, and meaning. Because of this, he truly lived, not in years, but Mike lived in spirit, presence, and honesty. Mike is who he was. He was unapologetic, unregretful, and no holds barred. All of us love these attributes, but only few of us can really achieve them. And Mike was one of the few people who did achieve them. Rob, my younger brother, and Mike, I look at you guys as my younger siblings. I have 3 older brothers and 2 younger ones. I know Rob and I would talk about this, and we would say, well, look, when is Mike gonna get his stuff together? When is he gonna do this? When is he gonna come back down to earth with us, join our reality? But Rob would say, that's not what Mike's all about. Mike thinks his in reality, and we are all being led astray. And I pretty much believe that the older I get. So, and I'm not kidding. You know, I really thought Mike lived his life, he was totally on course with what he believed in. On the outside, from a society perspective, it may have looked like he was off kilter and everyone else is in kilter. But in reality, it's society that's off. And I think Mike really lived to his heart content. This reminds me of a very famous quotation by Krishnamurti. And every time I read this, I often think about Mike. It says, "It is no measure of mental health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." Mike truly was full of compassion and love. He and Furo and I were talking about this a couple days ago. Mike, ill, hospice, few days to live, not drinking, not eating, and Furo was sitting by his side, and he grabbed her hand and said, "I will be okay, Mom. Take care of yourself." Just to show you what kind of person he was. He's sick, lucid intervals, still worried about his mom. Like, wow. You know, just in closing, I wrote a little poem I want to read, and Flo, Rob, everybody here loves you guys. Just look at this room. I think all 3 rooms are filled. It's just the love everybody has for you guys, your family, and you know, Rob, and Flo, this is hard to explain, and things probably are never going to be the same, and they can't be, but everybody's here for you guys. Everybody loves you guys. And if you ever need anything, if anybody ever offers anything, let them help you. You're doing them a favor, because everybody here really, really loves you. Mike, you have a lot of brothers. Farah, Alan, Moz, Sherwin, Dom, Jeff, Dan, me. So we're all here for you guys. And I mean that from the deepest part of my heart and everybody else's heart here. So from Mike's life and death, we must find courage to grow, to change, and more importantly, to heal. I wrote a little tiny poem, and I want to share with you guys. Who's going to fill water first? The poem I wrote for Mike is called The Eternal Wave. Waves roll in and waves roll out. Mike knew what life was all about. He cherished every face and soul and made the broken feel happy and whole. With wetsuit ready and surfboard in tow, the ocean's light would make him glow. Over Las Virgenes Road to Malibu's shore, to the saltwater rhythm he always adored. With his brother Rob, they hit the sand with Aunt Furo's love and guiding hand. Sea mist in the air and salt on his skin, sunlight shining as the tide pulls him in. The world's ocean were his playground and the waves were his call. From Zuma to Bali, he conquered them all. Now he rides an eternal wave that will never subside. A free-spirited soul on perpetual ride. His light hasn't faded, it's not truly gone. In every sweet memory, he's still living on. When we stand by the ocean, our chaotic life will cease, and the thought of our beloved Mike will bring us peace. Mike resides on the surface and the deep reefs below, where the ocean currents are kind and the galaxies glow. Shine on, Mike. Past the break and the ocean foam, riding the eternal wave, the universe now is your beautiful home. Thank you. That was very difficult for me to get through, but I usually don't choke up when I speak. Next, I would like to invite Uncle Irad John, our lovely uncle, to come and say a few words about Mike.
Hello to everybody, and I'm Uncle Iraj. I'm the oldest part of the family, and I want to thank everybody on behalf of Behzad, who's called Mike among you, and myself to take time to come here and respect his way that he's brought him to the place where he came from about 50 years ago. He's gone back to a space. He loved nature. He loved to surfboard. He loved everybody. His heart was in everybody. He loved family. And he loved to be with every one of you. Anytime he talked about friends, that was the best time that he and his friends went to the nature, camping and surfing. He was a naturalist. He had nothing. He was always down to earth. I mean, he said, it is better to be light than heavy. To be light in a talk, in a way that you don't carry anything with yourself. That is why he was always standing like an angel with his curly hair down his shoulders and some, like a brownish and maybe in the sun sometimes blondish, and his head sometimes a little lean on his shoulder. That shows how much he loved the nature and how down to earth he was. He didn't care about money or care about cars or all this, shirts and everything. He loved to be in the shore with his surfboard and go on a surfboard and just be free of everything. He was full of love for family, for friends, for everybody who came in contact with him. Now I want to tell you something that maybe nobody ever thought about. His name was Behzad. Who chose the Behzad name? You know, Behzad in Persian means the best born, the best born. I mean, they didn't put his name Behzad just for nothing, because he was best born, and he always took care of people and with his friend, and down to earth. Anyway, we gather here today to respect him, to respect his soul, to just walk him out on his way to the space where he came from 50 years ago. So he goes over there, he's free of everything that we care about, like necktie, coat, jacket, and cars, and everything else, which he actually didn't care about it. That is why he spent 20 years in Indonesia. Let me tell you, just make the talk short, let me tell you about some memories that I have with him. He came one day from Indonesia, about maybe like 20 years ago, and he came to our house. I said, Behzad, what are you doing in Indonesia, Mike? He said, well, over there, I go to the beach, and I'm instructor. I show the people how to surf, go on surfboard, and help the people. I said, when do you leave? He said, there is a village close by, and maybe about 5-6 miles. I communicate with my scooter. My scooter is just something that I can, just travel with. And then I said, in that village, there are some people that they can wove beach mats, the one that you put on the beach, you lay on it in the sun. He said, they are making beach mat over there, and they sell them for $5. I said, okay, man, if it is $5, why don't you bring some of them back to America from there? You can make good business, you can make good money. He said, no. Honest, he said, no. That is what he told me, He said, I don't want to get profit from the poor people. Those people that work hard. If I bring them here to America, I sell them for $20. I said, yeah, $20, you make millionaire in 1 year. He said, no, if I make money, I have to take this money back to Indonesia and give it to those people, because this is not my money. It is made by the hand of poor people. See what a spirit he had. His spirit was high, he was holy, he was good, he loved people, he cared about them. And that is why we are all so many people here. Look here. Everybody came here to just walk him out to the space where he is free, where he wanted to be with his surfboard and surf the oceans and live good without any pain and suffering. God bless his soul. And God bless all of you who came here to walk him out to his eternity. Thank you.
Thank you all. Next, I'd like to invite Galvash, Ms. Galvash.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Zovich. I'm Michael's cousin. His dad was my uncle. Michael was more to me than a cousin. He was my big brother. He was someone I looked up to, and I admired him so much. I was always so proud to introduce all my friends to my cool, older cousin, Michael. We have the greatest memories growing up together, watching him skateboard up and down his driveway to family vacations in Palm Springs and Lake Tahoe. Hearing about his experiences in Indonesia, his love for the jungle, and his passion for the camp he worked at. He was a world traveler. He put so much heart in everything he did. And oh my God, he gave the best hugs of anyone I know. I've been trying to find the words to do justice to the person Michael was and what he meant to me. He was the purest, most beautiful soul I've ever met in my life. Everything about him exuded love. I don't have any memories of him without a smile, and even from a distance, I could always hear the smile and chuckle in his voice. He was generous with his time and with his heart. If you were going through something, he was in it with you, good or bad. He was incredibly humble and could connect with anyone. He would spend hours having heart-to-hearts with my mom, who was 20 years older than him, and at the same time would have hour-long conversations about life with my younger brother, who was 20 years younger than him. He was always fully present. If he was with you, time stopped. He didn't have anywhere to be. Nothing else mattered. He was just fully in that moment with you. One of my favorite memories with him was when he was going to UCSD. We had some family visiting from Iran, and his dad, my dai, said, "We're all going to San Diego to visit Michael." He was a college kid living with roommates, and he hosted all of us. He had his aunties and uncles and younger cousins running around. He played the guitar for us, introduced us to his friends, and made us all feel so welcome. That night, he asked me to run an errand with him. As soon as we got in the car, he said, "Actually, you should drive. I've had a couple beers." I told him I didn't know how to drive. He said, "Are you serious? I'm going to teach you right now." It was pitch black at 9 p.m., and he took me to a parking lot and started teaching me how to drive. He trusted me more in that moment than I trusted myself. And that's just what he was like. He loved hard and was so easy to love. He made an impression on everyone he met. He was a free spirit in every sense of the term, and he lived his life exactly how he wanted to. I used to call him every year for his birthday, and he'd often say, Oh, I didn't even know it was my birthday. I celebrate every day, but thank you. His outlook on life is such an inspiration. Even in his hardest and toughest fight against cancer, he showed so much grace and courage. When he called to share the news, he was more concerned about us than himself. He said, "Don't worry about me. I'm fine. I've had a great life." When his dad was sick and declining, and Michael was fighting for his own life, he would ride his bike down the hill to visit him, shave his face, and uplift him in any way he could. He was a special kind of person. They say, the more you love the person, the more it hurts to lose them. He definitely left his impact and took a piece of our hearts with him. Although our time together was much shorter than my heart can handle, I'm incredibly grateful to have had the privilege of growing up with him and knowing him. His love for nature, the ocean, adventure, and for his family will live on. Michael, this is not goodbye. This is I'll see you later. And every time I miss you, I'll go to the beach and look for you in the ocean, chasing the waves.
Next, I'd like to invite Christina, my school friend and roommate, to say a few words.
Hello, I'm Christina Salamanco Jimenez, but might call me Cree. I can't remember the first time I met Mike. In a way, it feels like he was just always there. Growing up, my brother Roman and I became aware that there were two boys around our same age living in the house 2 doors down. Our backyard looked over to their swimming pool, and so my brother and I thought it would be a good idea to start throwing rocks, sticks, and apple cores into their pool. I'm sorry, Dr. Carson, I don't know why I did that. We were just being little troublemakers, but I'm glad it happened, because this led to some sort of confrontation involving the parents, and ultimately, a lifelong friendship was born. Roman and I found constant companionship and fun with Mike and Rob. We spent countless days playing after school, climbing the oak tree, swinging on our homemade swing, adding extensions onto our treehouse, and playing endless epic games of our own creation, like roller skate, hide and seek. The teams were always the same: Mike and Roman against Rob and me. And Rob and I would win every time. But in all honesty, we only won because we were cheaters. The only rule was that you couldn't go through the house on your skates. But Rob and I snuck through the house every time we found them. We relished in the glory of winning, but Mike and Roman were the honest ones. They played a fair game every time. We may have won, but we didn't deserve it. When I decided to move down to San Diego, I called Mike and I asked him if he happened to know anyone who was looking for a roommate. He said, "Cree, just give me a couple weeks." He then proceeded to evict his 2 roommates so that I could move in with another friend. Within a month, we were all housemates. Looking back, I'm so grateful for that demonstration of loyalty. He literally kicked someone out so that I could live there. And what a time we had. I look back on the days of living at the beach house in Encinitas as the glory days. Honestly, I think we were a little too young to know just how good we had it at the house on 4th Street. We could hear the ocean at night. We'd sleep with all the sliders open and get lulled to sleep by the sound of the rocks rolling up and down with the tide. and we all got along so well. It was a few steps across the street to the beach. The boys would surf, and the girls would swim and tan, and eventually we'd head back up to the house to barbecue out on the deck and hang out with our friends. We'd constantly spout off lines from our favorite surf movies, like Big Wednesday or North Shore. Mike shaped surfboards in the garage. And we did go to school from time to time as well. I'm sure many people in this room have spent time at that house, so if you know, you know. D Street for life. I lived there in Encinitas with Mike for about 4 or 5 years, and we always had a third roommate as well. I remember it was Josh, and then Aaron, and then of course our dear friend Kelsey. And on top of that, we often had extra people staying with us. In fact, some of you are undoubtedly in this room. There was a mattress that was constantly set up in the corner of our living room because it seems like someone was always staying with us. But Mike made everyone feel like family because his demeanor was so warm and welcoming. Mike was a biology major at UCSD, but if you asked him, he would simply say, "I study life," in his typical Mike Narchi fashion. He was right, but he didn't just study life. He lived it with such presence that he invented the phenomenon we all came to know as Narchi time. Mike ran on his own clock. He might show up at an event hours after it had started, but I don't think any of us ever begrudged him that, because when he showed up, he was so fully present. You'd see his face, and it felt like sunshine had just peeked through with warmth after a cold, cloudy day. He radiated such warmth and presence. And that's just how Mike showed up in life. He was so immersed in the moment that the clock really didn't matter to him. And if you were lucky enough to be in his presence, you felt that full immersion, that he was completely giving his full attention to you or to whatever was happening at the moment. Whenever I read something to Mike, whether it was a story or a poem, he would do this thing where he closed his eyes as he listened. He wanted to take in every word and picture exactly what you were saying. To have someone give such full attention to you or your words is a precious gift. Another demonstration of Narchi time is that Mike could talk on the phone for hours. This is something I really don't relate to. I end phone calls as fast as possible. But Mike was so immersed in whatever conversation he was having that time didn't exist. And I hope we can all learn to have that kind of presence in life. If Mike can leave something for us, hopefully we all adopt a bit of Narchi time into our own lives and show up with full presence in the world. Mike imagined himself being an old man someday. Sadly, his diagnosis wouldn't allow it. None of us know when our last day is going to come, but for Mike it came much sooner than anyone could have guessed. I wish for us all to remember how blessed we were to know him. Mike was one of a kind. I'm probably not sharing anything that you don't all already know. Simply put, Mike was special, and I hope to always honor his way of life. There's this concept of toxic masculinity that I hear about in our modern lexicon. I have little experience with it. It's been my very good fortune in life to be surrounded by good men. From growing up with my brother and cousins, to having friends like Mike, Rob, and Daniel, just to name a few. I've always had a group of guys looking out for me as if I was their own little sister. I've been protected, cared for, and pretty much always felt safe. I realize what a blessing that is. The fact that a term like toxic masculinity even exists proves to me that this experience is not as common as it should be. So the reason I bring it up is because whatever toxic masculinity is, well, Mike Narchi was the opposite of that. I would say he displayed a sacred or even a holy masculinity. He had a way of being in the world that was just wonderful. He was strong, kind, spiritual, smart, a deep thinker, and seriously, the most soulful person I ever knew. Mike has been a constant friend through every stage in my life thus far. from young childhood through high school and the teenage years, to attending the same college and living as housemates. He's met my husband, seen me pregnant, met my children. He came to my dad's funeral. He's just always been such a solid presence, and I'm forever grateful for him. There are certain things I realize that I will never do again without thinking of Mike. I will never hear a Bob Marley song without thinking of Mike. I will never watch a surf movie without thinking of Mike. I will never even look at the ocean without thinking of Mike. Thank you, Mike, for being in our lives. Thank you for the memories. I love you, Mike. And to me, you will always be the ultimate soul surfer.
Thank you, Christina. Next, I'd like to invite up Dan Mooney to sing a few words.
Hi, everybody. Life is so full of miracles. The fact that we're all sitting here today is actually a miracle. Because if Furu Hussein did not decide to move to the United States of America, we wouldn't all be here today. So Furu, thank you for making that decision. There's so many memories of Mike, like sand on the beach as the water washes it through your toes. Myself, my brother, and Roman, Christina, met Mike in the early 80s. And sad to say that we were also throwing dirt clogs in Mike and Rob's pool. It was, something you did as a kid. So it wasn't like, hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. It was like, we're going to throw stuff in your pool. Let's see what happens. So Mike and Rob were so upset that they raced up the hill to Roman's house because Christina said he lived right above the Narchis, and because they wanted to get in a fight with us. But unfortunately for them, when they knocked on the door, it was answered by Christina's older sister, Natalia, who was this beautiful Ukrainian young lady who was very similar to Mike in her outlooks in life, and was able to kind of talk them off the ledge, and we were pretty much friends ever since. We were always so close. I've always considered Mike and Rob and Furu, Christina, not just my friends, but my family. We will always be brothers. Whether it was riding our BMX bikes as kids, skateboarding through the neighborhood, rollerblading. Sorry, Rob, I know you don't want people to know you rollerblade. Yes, you did used to rollerblade. Going to squad, skiing with the Narchis. Our home was KT-22, and when it was called squad, what was it called? Mountain Palisades. It's always been called squad in my opinion. But Mike and Rob were always pushing the limits of what was sane, really. And if you didn't partake in whatever craziness they were doing, they would just hound you until you gave in. So Rob has this gift where he's a great negotiator, and he'll get you to do something that's his idea, but he'll make you think it's your idea. That's why he's so successful. Like the time that they convinced Furu and Norm to buy a trampoline in their backyard and put it over their jacuzzi so we could jump off the roof onto the trampoline and into the pool. And at the end, Rob and Mike would just crank on the jacuzzi. We would just be hanging out in the jacuzzi, and Norm would always come home, and his favorite line was, "Party's moving!" And I think he was jealous because we were living the life. I mean, here we are, two, first generation immigrants working really hard for their kids, providing such a great life. I think a lot of us in this room can really relate to that. Our parents were working, so we had very little parental guidance, if you will, and we just took it to the limit. I can honestly say it was the best childhood I could have ever had. So thank you for buying Mike and Rob all the mopeds, all the trampolines, all the climbing gear. We used to go climbing at, what was that place called? Stony Point off of Topanga. It was an amazing childhood. You know, we hooked up a rope to the oak tree, like Christina said, and we would swing on this rope on this oak tree, and it was pretty crazy. But what was really miraculous was none of us got hurt. I mean, none of us ended up in the ER with all the Persian doctors in this room. I mean, it was crazy. By the way, if anybody has a heart condition or a stroke, you're good. There's more doctors in this room than probably in 3 counties. So don't worry about that. Another classic Rob and Mike story. So we're about 15 years old, and Rob and Mike get this, I think it was Rob, Norm buys Rob this like amazing brand new Chevy Blazer. So 4-wheel drive, just like the sweetest thing ever. And we just happened to have a sleepover party at our house, and we were trying to convince Norm to let us have the Blazer for the night, because we were just going to go inside and watch a movie and hang out. So everybody was begging and pleading and saying, Norm, you know, we're not going to even go anywhere. We just want to have it. So fine, Norm left. So within like 5 minutes, we were going like 60 miles an hour down Thousand Oaks to Aurora High School, off-roading, catching air, and that thing. There were like 7 people in the back. It was freaking awesome. And again, we didn't get hurt, so that was really amazing. So that was kind of grade school. And then in high school, Mike hooked up with Peter Carpenter, who's here today, one of his really good surfer friends, and we spent so many years after college and during college going to Mexico, surfing, Blue Canyon, just all around the world. And Mike just lived such an amazing life, you know. Like Cheryl was saying earlier, Mike, when are you gonna figure it out? When are you gonna get a job? When are you gonna? But I mean, we're the suckers. I mean, he lived his whole life. He never had a job. He did what he wanted. I think he really, you know, got the most out of life and did what he wanted to do in his own way. I can honestly say with my whole heart that Mike made my life better. He made everybody's life better. I don't think I ever got into a confrontation with him. You know, you're always, sometimes you get in fights with your loved ones, your friends, your wife. Mike and I never fought. He was just always such an agreeable person, and I don't think if he ever got into any confrontations over him with you, Rob, it's because you're not very likable. So, you know, in the Encinitas 559 4th Street, I can't still remember the address, was a really special time. So we were all in our 20s, and we had jobs, and we were traveling. And I just remember another friend of ours worked at Hanson's, which is like a local institution down in Encinitas, and he would tell me stories about when Mike would come into the store, all the girls in there would be like, oh my God, there he is, he's here. Because, you know, Mike, very attractive guy. And women would really just throw themselves at him. But he wasn't interested in being a womanizer or the physical connections. He wanted more of a spiritual connection with everybody, not just, you know, women, men. He was just more into like a deep, meaningful connection with them. And he would just very respectfully just like let him down and just remain friends. And so he was very special that way. I mean, most men and women throwing themselves at them would be a totally different story, but he wasn't like that. And that's what I think attracted most people to him. And it was around that time that Mike found Indonesia, and I think that was really his happy place. That was where he felt the most connected to surfing and to the ocean, kind of found himself in a very nice way of life where he could surf and be useful to the people of Indonesia and all these tourists that would go in and surf. And I was speaking to one of my clients, incidentally, who was a surfer, and said that he was in Indonesia. So we started talking about Indonesia, and I And I said, hey, do you know a guy named Mike Narchi? And he goes, oh, I remember Mike. Yeah, we went surfing at the camp. And my friend actually had a story. He dislocated his shoulder, and Mike actually like popped back in place like on the beach, So not only was he, he was very in tune with his body and how, the body works, kinesiology and all that stuff. So I thought that was really cool that I could talk to somebody here who knew Mike and he helped that person in Indonesia. So after Mike was diagnosed, I think he struggled with it a bit like we all would with our own mortality. But in the end, he was very much at peace with it, and I think it speaks a lot to all of his friends and all the people in this room who came to see him and took him on surf trips and went skiing and snowboarding with Rob up in Mammoth. And I think that we were very lucky to kind of get that much lead time. He was very lucky to live so much longer than his diagnosis because it allowed all these people to come back into his life and really appreciate him. And for most of it, he was very lucid, and I think he really enjoyed reconnecting with everybody. And obviously, Furu and Rob, they were so amazing to Mike, just being there for him and taking him to his appointments. Rob, he would drop everything, and he was out on Westlake so much, and I know that was really hard for him to see, but he did it because it was the right thing to do. And he's a great person, and I know Mike would do the same for him, and I think a lot of these people would do the same for Rob if they ever had to. I know I would. So I want to ask a favor in closing here for everybody in this room. We all know how much Mike loved the beach and being at the ocean. So just so he is always living in our memories, I just would ask you, every time you're at the beach, just think of Mike and think of how happy he was at the beach, and that was really his place. So if we continue to think of him when we go to the beach, I think his memory will always be with us, and we can always carry his positivity and his joie de vivre forward.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to invite up Michelle Ricardo's daughter.
Hello. Hi everyone. My name is Michelle, and I'm Alessia's and Ricky's daughter. My dad came to study in America for university for a supposedly very serious engineering program, but was met with Mike on his first day instead. Then followed a month-long surf session in Encinitas instead of classes. And I would say since then, my dad and Mike have been like brothers. Thanks to my dad's and Mike's friendship, I was introduced to him 11 or so years ago, and very quickly, Mike became family to me as well. My first encounter with him is something that always brings a smile to my face. At the time, I was very young, must have been 9 or so, and I thought Mike was badass. I mean, this guy walked in my house. He had curvy, long hair, a laid-back attitude. I think he still smelled like salt water. Apparently, he had just come back from his trip to Indonesia. I was like, who is this cool surfer wizard guy? And of course, as one does with Mike, he took me surfing. I gotta say, the first couple times in the water can be frustrating and a little bit scary, but Mike was so incredibly trustworthy, he made my journey feel safe. We talked so much in the water. He taught me how to wait for a set, how to understand currents. I won't bore you with the details, but I owe a lot of my knowledge to him. It wasn't much later when I looked a little deeper into what Mike had taught me in the water, and realized that those lessons were the same principles and values that he took into his own life. He was so very patient of a person. He was incredibly kind and gentle to every and any living thing. Mike was free, and he never let the bed take away from that. But most of all, Mike was family to me, to you, and to many friends he shared his life with. Because of the moments shared in the ocean, a few of us have decided to meet tomorrow morning at Heaven's Beach to celebrate Mike and honor his love for the ocean once more. It'll be a simple paddle out ceremony, and it represents a connection between life and the ocean. And I'd love for anyone to join. For now, just a brief farewell to a very lovely Mike. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to invite up Lisa to say a few words, please.
Hey everyone, I'm Lisa. For many years I had the privilege of being Mike's sister-in-law, and I'm also Cam and Ella's mom, who were Mike's niece and nephew. Looking around this room, it's clear how many people love Mike. Mike was so many things to all of us. He was a friend, a cousin, a second cousin, a nephew, an uncle, a funkle, a son, and a little brother. And of course, many of you also have your own nicknames for him. Mike, Mikey, Michael, Michael John, Monk, Cuz, Narchi, Narch, Beza, Beza John. There's so many. However you knew him, one thing I think we can all agree on is this. If you had a relationship with Mike, it was probably a meaningful one. Mike didn't really do casual connection. If he met you, he wanted to look you in the eye, give you a hug, and really hear how you're doing. And probably make a loose plan to go surf somewhere. Mike took connecting to a whole nother level. Rob used to roll his eyes at me whenever I asked Mike a deep question because he knew what was about to happen. We'd be sitting there talking for hours. Honestly, it didn't even have to be a deep question. It could simply be, how are you? And you'd suddenly be in this conversation for who knows how long. And when I say we, I don't mean just Mike and me, I mean all of us. Because I know every single person in this room felt that warmth from Mike. The feeling that he really saw you, that he genuinely cared about you. He wasn't interested in small talk. He wanted to know how you were really doing. And if you ask many of his guy friends, they might describe him with one word: lagging. That was the word. He moved to the rhythm of his own drum. And as Rob likes to say, sometimes that rhythm didn't quite match the Western Hemisphere. In our house, the kids and I had a running joke. If Mike said he was coming over for lunch on Monday, we might be lucky if we saw him Tuesday for dinner. And Cam has technically been waiting for Mike to finish shaping a surfboard since he was about 5. But the truth is, Mike wasn't really lagging. He was just living life differently than many of us. While so many of us were caught up in the daily grind, worrying, scheduling, planning, Mike had a way of slowing things down. I remember him looking at Rob and I once and saying, looking at us in our busy West LA life and said, how do you guys even do this? And honestly, I never had a good answer. Deep down, I think many of us knew Mike understood something that the rest of us often forget. That life isn't meant to be rushed through. It's meant to be experienced. And Mike really experienced life. He served, he traveled, he connected deeply with people. He followed his heart. And I think many of us admire that much more than we ever even told him. Mike lived a full life in his 51 years. If we measure life only by productivity, it might seem a little short. But if we measure life by how deeply someone was loved and how deeply they were loved in return, Mike lived a long life. He got a lot done. He was loved well, and he loved well in return. Recently, I've been listening to some of the WhatsApp voice messages Mike has sent me over the years. Some from when he was back living in Indonesia, back when his voice was strong and vibrant. It's been really special to hear that voice again. And after Mike was diagnosed, when I would ask him how he was doing, he would often say something very simple. He would say, "I'm just trying to be here now." And when I think about it, as we've all said today, that's exactly how Mike lived his whole life. He was here. He was fully here. There's another message he once sent me that I've been leaning on a lot lately. He said, "Out of sight does not mean out of mind and out of heart." And that's something I know I'll carry with me forever now. Mike may be out of sight, but he is never going to be out of our hearts and out of our minds. So when grief comes, as it will, don't be afraid of it. Let it visit you the way Mike used to visit you. Spend a little time with it. That's one way we can continue honoring him. And when life starts moving too fast, maybe hear Mike's voice reminding you to slow down. Because that's how he lived. Slow, intentional, present. The last thing that I want to share with you all is that Mike told me many times during his diagnosis that he knew this was going to be harder on all of us than it was on him. What a brilliant, beautiful, selfless soul. We love you, Mike, and thank you for teaching us all how to live.
Thank you, Lisa. Next, I'd like to invite up food.
He's been very healthy, never took any medication, even one hospital, nothing. And we just noticed that for 2-3 days, he sleeps a lot. That was 2023. And we didn't know what it was. So I told to my husband then that has to be a drug like marijuana that put him to sleep like that. So we didn't know. And he said, "I'm going to go to Olama," that's somewhere that they go surfing with his friends. So believe it or not, he drove his car all the way to Olama, which is about an hour and a half above Santa Barbara. So that was a long distance. He got there and he found his very good friend there and with his family. And so they had a car and they turned it like a camping site by the name of Ram, R-A-M. And he was sleeping in it, his friend with his family. And he set up his tent next to his car on the ground, next to his car. So he noticed that he's sleeping a lot. For the whole day that he was there, he didn't come to serve, but he's in his bed and sleeping. And also a little bit confused. So he told him next morning, Michael, we are going to go back to Westlake. He's there, his friends. So Michael said, "No, I'm not going. You go, but I promise next day I'll come." Be as it may, they left. But he when he looked a little bit confused and sent it to their friend who lived about 10 minutes away. And he said, look, tomorrow morning you come first to check on Michael because he looked confused. There is something going on. That's what he told his friend. So she came next morning first and checked Michael and said, Michael, you are going to go back home. And he said, no, I'm not going back. But I promise you that I'm going to drive myself. He said, no, you have two choices only. One is you come right now into my car and I drive you to Westlake, or I call paramedic because the little hospital was only 10-15 minutes away. So paramedic came and right away they did a CAT scan of his brain and he wanted to talk to me and he said, Dr. Barsa, unfortunately, it wasn't what you were guessing, that he's maybe dropped. No, he has 5 centimeters, the size of the grapefruit in his brain, in front of left side. And he needs to be driven immediately to Cottage Hospital in Santa Barbara. This is not in the way. So he was driven to Santa Barbara, and luckily, where is Dr. Mayer? I started here with surgery. No, she must be the man. I saw Dr. Mayer. And she is Nicole Mayer, who was 3 years old, and she moved to Iran. Oh, thank you, Dr. Mayer. Please come. Come here. Come on, please. Because there's so important going on. She was 3 years old when, because of the revolution, they moved to the United States. And she had the best training possible in VA. And many talk law, and in the world of neurosurgery, they all knew her. And when I called them to tell them what we were having, they said, oh, you mean Nicole? I said, yes, but how do you know Nicole? Oh, who doesn't know Nicole? She is the most famous neurosurgeon. There is no other like anyway, just making sure. She operated next day a big tumor, glioblastoma, which is the best, the most lethal cancer in the body. And he will die in 3 months to 6 months without any extension. So she operated next day. She operated and before Michael was in coma, so quickly from transportation from Olama to the Little Hospital to Cottage Hospital, only short. Michael was already in coma. He broke his face like a stone on the right side of the room. Yeah, he couldn't do his finger. He couldn't talk because that tumor put the pressure in the center of his speech in the front of him. So he was speechless, in coma, and having a stroke like syndrome. Yeah. And so, all right. So she said that has to be operated immediately. So we took Michael to surgery to remove 90% of that tumor, and then 10%, he said, if I take the whole thing, he's going to have a major stroke. So, believe it or not, next day, when we went to visit Michael is sitting, talking, no sign of a stroke. He could walk like a miracle. And so this is what happened with Dr. Michael. And so in 2 days, she discharged Michael. And he said, you go there and you go to neurosurgeon for the follow-up treatment. And that's what we did with UCLA, Westwood, not those else, UCLA. Anyway, time went by, and one more time, the tumor came, and she did again. It was penetrating inside of the brain. It would have killed him. But she took him. She had courage to take him again for surgery, and it took about 5 hours. That with the control, one by one, she picked out and electrocuted the tumors. It took 5 hours. And she said, I cannot do anything more. That is it. Anyway, Michael came out, and we went to UCLA Westwood with a fantastic doctor from UCLA that was in charge of all the research for glioblastoma from the West Coast. With fantastic background. She was Vietnamese, and she started the treatment, and really I followed very carefully everything she said. And Michael lasted for almost 3 years, which is very rare, very rare. And so then there was sign that she had side effect from chemo, and they stopped it. I don't go through detail, but they made all the treatment stopped by recommendation of the doctor. And that was the beginning of the end, because the tumor penetrated to the other side, and he began to have major problems. But he wasn't still sick. He didn't look sick. He looked like his normal one, right? Ricardo.
He did.
He looked really like he has no problem. He's healthy. But it wasn't the case. He began to lose weight. He could not eat anymore because the center for swallowing was damaged by this tumor, and no drinking. Imagine, for 2 weeks, he had no drop of fluid, water, or nothing to eat. He never complained. He was just like that. Never, ever complained. And until, he really began to have respiratory problems, and he passed away. But just before this last part, he told me, Mom, don't worry about me. I'm fine. I'm going to be okay. But I want you to take care of yourself. You have to feel better. And I'm going to be fine. He never said, I'm going to go somewhere else. Never talked about eternity before. And so he passed away. And left me really in, I never thought you're going to be like that. Suddenly, my beloved son is gone. And they all said, it's going to be soul, which is separated from the body, and maybe it come back in a different form, different. But I knew one thing for sure, Michael is not coming back to me. That I'm sure. And it's killing me. Truly, I don't know how I could survive that. And you people here today, honestly God, every one of you, you had some encounter with Maggie. It wasn't just friend coming, no. Everybody, even one time, they saw Maggie, they fell in love with him. And he never tried hard for people to love him. No, he was just himself. And when I talked to his friend, they said yes, he was just like that, and we loved him for what he was. And you see his picture, truly you see somebody who is a happy guy, and happy guy. And he loved surfing, he loved Indonesia. I said, why Michael, Indonesia? He said, because these people, they don't want to ask more for life. They are all content, happy with what they have, and they don't have much. They have very little money, but they are still happy, and they don't want for me. That's why I love these people. What they do, they clean the camp, they cook, they wash dishes, and he loved those type of people. And he would call them and talk to them. And they made it, like today what we have, just like that in a camping site in south of Jakarta. Everybody knows. But something special. I talked to Huma. He said, yes, no, he was exceptional. He was not anybody. No, he was an exception. And that is what he was. And he left me with, I don't know how I'm going to be. It is so hard, so hard, so yeah. Anyway, this is that, and as in turn, always the way you want it goes like that. And I'm left with so much sorrow. And I don't think I'm ever feel alone. Because every cell I told him, my kitchen, every cell of my body is full of love. And I don't know how to do it. He never talked about dying before. I never said that. That was what it was. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay.
You know, there were so many wonderful speakers here today, and I'm sure everybody here has something really nice to say about Mike. But Mike hasn't left us, is here, is in this room. I feel his presence through all of you guys. He's always going to be here. The last part is we have a slideshow, one of the Bob and Mike's really close friends, Peter Carpenter, has put together a 15-minute slideshow. 15. 15. 1-5. And also, 10 minutes. Me and Rob have a bet, and I told them the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl this year, and we have a 3-4 odds that he says they won't, and I say they will. So count your money, Rob, all right? Start saving your money for February. I'm going to collect from you. All right, you guys, thank you so much. And this is the conclusion. close our program after the slideshow. Thank you.
Superman is coming.
I'm here.
Go up there, Superman. Now let's see what the other one is. Now the big jumper. Yeah, the pahlevan. بیا بینم پسر. Come on.
بزن بیا پایین. بیا.
Super.
بیا.
One more heaven to cross. One more heaven to cross. But when the sun says goodbye to the morning, then there'll be no more river to cross. And one more river to cross. One more river to cross. But when the sun says goodbye to the morning, then there'll be no more river to cross. Billy Bop, the master's cup is full and running over, while violence seems to be taking over. Not until the sun says goodbye to the morning, before there'll be no more river to cross. Every day, another river to cross. Every day, another river to cross. But when the sun says goodbye to the morning, then there'll be no more river to cross. And one more river to cross. One more river to cross. But when the sun says goodbye to the morning, then there'll be no more river to cross. Yes, I want more river to cross. One more river to cross. But when the sun says goodbye to the morning, then there'll be no more river to cross. Billy Bop, the master's cup is full and running over, while violence seems to be taking over. Not until the sun says goodbye to the morning, before there'll be no more river to cross. Every day, another river to cross. Every day, another river to cross. But when the sun says goodbye to the morning, then there'll be no more river. No more river. No more river. Still every day it's another river. To cross.
So I'll see you guys soon enough. Thanks again, yeah. And of course,
out of sight does not mean out of mind and out of heart.